Dark Order member wearing a hood enters a building, and it seems like he is in a hurry. He informs the leader that this place is no longer safe, and someone is coming for them. The leader inquires about the one who is coming, and the hood guy asks him if he has not heard about the rumors going around in the streets. A person who is coming here has many names. Some call him Vampire Slayer or Lycan Slaughterer, but most people know him as Master of the Blue Devils, and he is heading here with his undead. Master of the Blue Devil arrives outside the Dark Order building while the hood figure is trying to convince his leader to flee. He orders his zombies to tear apart the guards standing outside the building. Inside the building, leader tells the hood guy that they have nothing to worry about. They have the best Holy Knight Order with them. The hood guy gets down on his knees, and he is trembling with fear. It turns out that the Holy Knights have already been defeated and turned into undead. At the same time, Master of the Blue Devils is standing outside the building, and he orders the undead to kill everyone present inside. The undead rush inside the building, which makes the Dark Order members afraid. The undead rip apart everyone except for the leader of the Dark Order. The Dark Order leader is not sure why this is happening because the undead are supposed to serve necromancers like him. The Master of the Blue Devils steps on the commander. He is still being cocky, and he warns the Master of the Blue Devils that no matter how hard he tries to stop them, God will grant them salvation. The Master of the Blue Devils points his rifle toward the head of the leader. He informs the leader that he will grant him salvation. The commander can feel divine power seeping into his skin. Master of the Blue Devils tells the leader that the blessings of God will lead you to hell. With that being said, he pops open the head of the leader like a watermelon. A few years before this incident, there were rumors of a exiled 7th prince. He was a shame of the Holy Kingdom. The prince had no morals, and he was the bottom of mankind. One day, the archbishop caught him red-handed while he was harassing his daughter. Instead of just taking a punishment and repenting for his sins, he went ahead and made a mess out of the room of the archbishop, and he painted that the archbishop was a slave of the goddess. The holy emperor got angry after hearing about it. He sent the prince to the land of the dead spirits. He was sent there to reflect on his actions, but instead of repenting, he did some dirty stuff and committed suicide after getting rejected by a girl. But fortunately, he lived as the rope got cut in half. The strange thing is that he became a totally different person. He now works hard at the cathedral without getting in trouble. Everyone in the town is obsessed with him, but there are still some people who are suspicious of him as the prince completely changed out of blue. There are many rumors going around the town. Some say a demon entered his body because he committed blasphemy. Some say that the prince made a contract with a demon. And there is another person who said that he saw a corpse walking around the cemetery. Right now, in the present, there are some zombies who are sitting in a well-dignified manner. The 7th prince is standing right in front of them. A status window pops up and it shows that the name of the 7th prince is Alan All Falls. He is 16 years old and he has a Necromancer class. Alan closed the status window as it is quite annoying and it keeps on popping up on its own. Alan informs the undead zombies that there are some bizarre rumors going around the town because some people saw them. If this goes on, then Alan can be wrongly accused of heresy. In reality, this guy is not Alan. He was an average person living in Korea, but then he randomly became the trash son of the Holy Emperor by entering his body while he was hanging by a rope. You can see the status window. He had a necromancy ability, so he used it to help himself as a graveyard keeper. But the problem is that the necromancy is branded as heresy in this world. He was confused at first, but he slowly started to get the hang of it. First, he made a zombie to dig the graves. After that, he made a Birya zombie, and another one to place the gravestone on top of the finished tombs. Alan tells the zombies that he had a nice day because of them. The zombies take it as a compliment, and they become happy. Alan tells the zombies that all nice days need to come to an end, and it's time to say their goodbyes. The zombies become agitated, and they start protesting. Signs of rebellion are visible on the faces of the zombies. Alan tells them that he had a complex life in Korea and right now, he's trying to live a peaceful life. Alan tells them to not worry and he will think more about his decision since he became closer to them. A zombie gives him a thumbs up indicating that he made a good decision. Alan tells them to start working again if they don't want him to go back on his word. There are two people standing on the outskirts of the cemetery, and one of them heard something unusual. His comrade tells him to stop talking and push the cart. The body of the dead person inside the cart looks unusual as well. With that being said, both of them start hurrying toward the cathedral to ask Alan to help their cursed village. There is a house in their village, which is emitting an evil aura. A pale-looking person with white hair and red eyes seems to be living inside it. The villagers deliver the corpses to Alan, and he asks them if this is the last patch for today. One of the villagers say that these were the only corpses they could find on the outskirts of their village. One of them requests Alan to come with him to the village. He says that the whole village has almost been annihilated, and they will feel safer if a prince is with them, while the other one says that they are both only still fine because they keep on seeing him. Both villagers start begging the prince. They think the sickness will not get to them if they stick with the prince. Alan is thinking that there might be a misunderstanding going on. With that being said, Alan moves to the village along with the villagers. After some time, they arrive at the village, and it looks scary. One of the villagers informs him that the waterworks have stopped working. That's why there are so many deep water ponds around here. Alan tells them to stay away from him, but they are thinking that he is their lucky charm. Alan tells them that they need to start searching the houses. At the same time, something moves around them. Alan notices it, but the other two villagers are thinking that it must be the wind. Alan tries to chase the unknown person, while the two villagers keep on begging him to stay with them. Alan is not feeling good about this situation. He is sure that he felt a small presence which excluded a murderous aura. Alan becomes alerted after hearing a squeaking sound, but on closer inspection, it turns out to be a mouse. The mouse comes closer to Alan, which is a bit uncommon for these fearful rodents. All of a sudden, the eyes of the mouse become blood red and his veins look like they are about to pop. More infected rats come out of the rat hole and they look aggressive. Without wasting any time, all of them jump toward Alan. The rats get a bit close to him, and on closer inspection, they turn out to be zombie rats. Alan brushes them off, and he is thinking that maybe they are the reason why the village ended up like this. Alan starts smashing the zombie rats with his cemetery shovel. All surviving rats retreat for a second, and a piece of cloth falls on the head of Alan. The remaining rats are sad due to the deaths of their kind. The rats turn their sadness into rage, and they rush toward Alan once again. Alan falls down due to the impact of the rats, and his shovel falls into a dirty pond behind him. The shovel starts glowing after reaching the bottom of the pond. A skill imbued on the shovel was activated, and it purified the dirty pond. This skill is called Swap of Death, and it swept away all rats with the holy water. The skill was activated on its own, and Alan had no idea that he had skills like this on his disposal. At the same time, the villagers arrived there to check on him. The villagers are thinking that these rats must be the cause of the disease which swept away this village, and somehow the prince purified them with holy water. Alan picks up his shovel from the pond, and now he knows that he can use other skills aside from raising zombies. He is thinking that his class is Necromancy, but he is the grandson of the Holy Emperor, and maybe that's why he can use holy skills as well. And it must be the reason why those zombies were more kind than normal zombies. Alan snaps out of his thinking bubble after a girl approaches them. The other villagers know her. Her name is Charlotte, and she lives next door to them. They are both happy that she survived the disease, and they tell her that they are here to rescue all villagers, and if she knows about other survivors. The girl is hiding a kitchen knife. Without wasting any time, she leaps toward the villagers and cut them with her knife. At last, she leaps toward Alan, but he manages to block her attack with a shovel. Alan does a feint attack to jump back, and he is thinking that this girl is not a complete zombie because she can use tools. Alan asks the girl if she is still alive. The girl is crying and she tries to call her mom and dad. After that, she strikes Alan once again. The shovel starts glowing, indicating that a skill is getting activated. The body of the girl starts burning after coming in contact with holy power. She is going to die at this rate, so Alan pushes her toward the holy pond. The girl tries her best to stop Alan, but it is all in vain. In the end, Alan completely submerged her in the holy pond. Alan is exhausted from all the struggle, and the girl is not moving after getting purified as well. After a few days, more villagers got wind of what Alan did in the other village, and they come to him to ask for help. Alan tells them that they heard it wrong. He did not help any girl and she died back then. Alan further informs them that he is related to the Holy Emperor by blood, but he don't have any abilities, so he can't save anyone. The villagers become disappointed after hearing it. They ran all the way here to ask for help, but it was all in vain. Alan asks them about who told them that he saved people. All of a sudden, the first villager runs inside the room, indicating that he survived the attack of Charlotte back then. Without looking at the situation, he informs the prince that Charlotte is awake. He keeps on praising Alan for his marvelous accomplishment in his village, and he is wondering why there are so many guests in here. The villagers become pissed at Alan for lying to them. Alan gets up and he says that he will help them since he got no other choice. But there are a few conditions. Village elder Parlock, who is 75 years old, his specialties are tattle, farming, and trickery plus. He is full of suspicion. Alan is thinking that Parlock wanted his help in the first place, but Parlock cannot completely trust him because he is a trashy prince. Alan tells them that he will not be doing free volunteer work, and he requires money and supplies for his service. He further asks them to fix this cathedral for free, and the villagers don't seem to be happy with it. Alan starts leaving, which makes the villagers more startled, and they accept his conditions. Alan tells them that there is one more condition. He asks the villagers to make it sure that they keep this trade away from the Holy Knights, and the villagers agree to it as well. Alan seems quite happy with this deal, and now he can live in a well-made cathedral like an exiled prince. Parlock informed Alan that 30 corpses in his village became zombies. Alan tries to grab his gear while he tells everyone else to prepare their weapons as well. They asked him to take care of the zombies, but he is not going to fight them alone. He will be performing his holy powers, while the villagers will do the fighting. The villagers are thinking that this guy is no holy prince, but a demon. All of a sudden, they start hearing spooky voices from outside. One of the villagers who was checking the windows informs them that the zombies followed them and now they are here. Alan tells the villagers to hurry up and grab the gear from the storage. From mops to tools, they're going to use everything at their disposal. After a few minutes, the zombies come closer to the building and there are way more than 30 zombies in this horde. Alan asks the chief for explanation for his lie. The chief says that he is getting old and he could not see the exact number of zombies while they were running. The villagers rush outside the building to fight against the zombie horde. The whole fight is quite intense and the villagers are suffering some losses. Alan pushes a zombie back using his shovel, then he uses Swap of Death to summon the holy water to get rid of zombies. The zombies getting hit by the skill perish after giving out loud screams. Alan played with Necromancer class a lot even before coming to this world, so using skills is not hard for him. He volunteered in a virtual reality game beta testing to make some pennies. Unfortunately, he died from electrocution. He lost consciousness after smelling his own burned skin, and when he woke up, he was in this body. Luckily, the skills from that game transferred to this body as well. The divine power which was already present in this body altered his necromancy skills, but divine power is hard to control. Every time he uses a skill, his divine power just spills out. Red Alan snaps back to reality after hearing the cries of a villager. The villager says that he cannot do it anymore. The poor guy can see his wife among the horde of zombies. His wife comes closer to him, and he cannot muster the courage to hurt her. The female zombie tries to take a bite out of her husband, but before she can do some damage, Alan puts her in her place by smacking her head with the shovel. Alan tells the villager to stop overacting and get his act together, but the villager is pissed at Alan for hurting his wife. Alan tells the villager to look at her once again. Her body is rotting and her soul lost its way. If he wants his wife to suffer like that, then he can stop fighting and run away. While Alan was busy, a zombie tries to take this chance to bite him. Alan easily manages to dodge the attack, but his eyes are on something else. It turns out that someone is coming down from the sky. This person turns out to be Charlotte, and she crashes into the ground. Charlotte gets up and she asks the prince if he is okay. In the past, Charlotte was being chased by swarms of infected rats in her village. She was almost exhausted, but somehow she managed to get to her house. After opening the main door, she told her mom and dad that there are swarms of rats outside. But what she saw shook her to the core. It turns out her dad was biting her mom, but she was still conscious. Her mom told her to run away from the house, and these proved to be her last words. Young Charlotte was afraid beyond belief, and she was shivering with fear. In a few moments, her mom turned into a zombie. The rats were making their way to the house while she was being chased inside by her parents. She grabbed whatever she could and she swung it at them. In the end, she managed to kill them, but at a greater cost. People in her village started to turn into zombies. The rats, which were previously trying to eat her, ignored her after that. She's not sure if she is turning into one of them or not. There is no one who can save her in the village. But deep down, all this time she was hoping to be saved. And in the end, Alan saved her from that misery. Charlotte woke up in the cathedral, and she is not sure if all of that was a dream. A woman told her that the prince appointed her to take care of Charlotte, and there are zombies outside, so they need to stay quiet. They can see the whole battle unfold through a window. All of a sudden, Charlotte remembers everything and she opens the window. She jumps up in the air toward the prince, and in the end, she lands with a huge impact. She assures the prince that she will save all of them. After a few hours, the fighting ends and the prince can't fathom what he is witnessing right now. Charlotte made a pile of corpses, and Alan is not sure how she did that. The villagers are quite happy and they are cheering Charlotte. Alan is thinking that maybe something happened to her body after getting cleansed moments before turning into a zombie. Right now, he is not even sure what his abilities did to her body. Alan tells the villagers to stop the celebration and to take care of their family remains. He knows they're all tired, but it's better to get it over with. Their family members were in pain, so they have to free them from it. Plus, Alan will himself help them with the cleansing ritual. A ritual in this world is quite simple. They have a funeral for the dead ones, and they wish for them to rest well, so the spirits don't wander around and rest. That is part of the reason why Alan was exiled here. In this land of the dead, the spirits have a high chance of rising as zombies, so they needed someone to take care of the dead. Considering all that, this situation is still unusual. Alan never saw a record of these many villages getting infected so fast all at once, plus it's too early for the arrival of the wave of dead. Alan calls out the chief, and Alan asks the chief if there was any stranger or anything weird at their village. But the chief says that there was nothing unusual. Chief further informs him that the plague started around a month ago. Alan asks them if there was any necromancer, and the villagers become pale with fear. Villagers say that just imagining someone like that near them disgusts them. Alan in his mind is thinking that he is sorry to disgust them. This theory is correct. Whoever controlled zombies has to be nearby, but he don't know how to find that person. Alan tells the villagers that he is going to sleep and they can take care of the rest. Alan heads toward his room, and without wasting any time, he starts resting on his comfortable bed. Alan is totally exhausted, and he goes to sleep right away. After a few hours, he wakes up after hearing a loud scream. He's not sure what is going on so early in the morning. The villager shouts out that the zombies kidnapped a person. Alan goes outside to check on the situation, and then a villager informs him that he saw a zombie kidnapping someone with his own eyes. They were both going through the cemetery and they heard some cries for help. They saw a zombie running away after kidnapping Morian, who asks them about this Morian person, and the villager informs him that Morian is the young lady who digs up herbs. Alan asks the villagers if he knows her. The villager says that she is quite beautiful. Plus, she is the one who rejected the confession of Alan in the past. They keep on throwing facts at Alan like he tried to hang himself after getting rejected by her, and Alan tells them to stop it as he can now remember everything. So the villagers say that they should form a search party and look for Marianne, while Alan is thinking that these bastards are proactive only because Marianne is a beauty. Alan needs to confirm something with his own eyes. It's his first time seeing a zombie kidnap a human. Alan asks them if tracking is possible, and the villager informs him that a hunter called Sir Hans might be able to help him out. Alan tells them that they will depart right away, and the villagers agree to it, who orders them to tell the hunter Hans to come quickly. Alan looks around to find out that a chubby Charlotte is standing very close, and she is staring at him. Charlotte comes closer to Alan, but she is not saying anything. Alan is not sure if she is holding a grudge against him for knocking her in the past or not. With that being said, Alan departs along with the villagers. Charlotte is not sure if she should follow Alan or not. After a few hours, Hans informs Alan that the zombies walk by dragging their feet, so it's easy to find their traces, and he is sure that the zombie went inside this cave. Since the villagers are feeling a certain type of chill from this place, and Alan praises Hans for the good work. The cave ahead is full of ominous demonic energy. At some point this place was full of zombies, and this can be the source of the plague. Judging by the recent actions of the zombies, there is a high chance that there is someone behind them. Alan asks the villagers if they should just block the entrance, and the villager begs him to not do it since Morian is inside. Alan informs them that the undead buffs inside that place are much stronger, and if everyone runs inside to save a woman, then they will all turn into zombie buffet. A villager asks Alan about how are they going to save Morian. Alan says that they should go back and return after being well prepared, but by the time they return, Morian will be most probably dead. Alan looks back after hearing a gruesome sound. It turns out that there is a zombie bear right behind him. Alan had not enough time to back away, and the bear managed to bite his shoulder. Alan tries to fight back, but the bear has overwhelming strength. The bear drags Alan into the cave while the villagers try to save him. The zombie bear throws down Alan from a cliff inside the cave. Alan pulls out his shovel and he uses Swap of Death skill to drag the bear into the cave along with him. Alan and the bear fall down and Alan is in pain. He uses a skill called Terrible Curse to heal his shoulder. Alan is running low on divine power after using Terrible Curse skill. At the same time, the zombie bear approaches Alan from behind. The zombie bear is called King of Gluttony. Its specialty includes biting, crushing, slashing, and digging into the organs, plus its state has been enhanced by necromancy. Previously, Alan shot the bear with holy water, and it is still standing well thanks to being enhanced by Necromancer. He is not sure if he can win against the bear with brute force. Without wasting any time, the bear leaps toward Alan. This time, Alan manages to dodge the bite attack. Zombie bear uses a claw attack to pierce Alan, but before the attack could land, he gets his eye pierced by Charlotte. Since the bear is panicking as his eye has been completely removed, the zombie bear goes on a berserk rampage, and Alan tells Charlotte to hold onto the bear. But her grip losses and she gets thrown away. Without wasting any time, the zombie bear gets ready to gulp up Charlotte in one go. Charlotte seizes this opportunity to stab the mouth of the zombie bear. Charlotte keeps on putting force on the knife and digging it deeper. In the end, she manages to slash open one side of the bear, and the zombie bear crashes into a wall. Alan thanks Charlotte for buying time for him to activate his skill, but the hand of Alan seems a bit rough around the edges. The mind of Charlotte gets overcooked as she is wondering that this hand does not belong to Alan, and maybe he changed into a zombie. A lot of zombies rise from the ground, and Alan says that this is the correct method of fighting this battle. In a few seconds, the whole place gets filled with zombies, and Alan says that the zombie bear got no chance against these numbers. Without wasting any time, the zombies start biting the bear. The bear is trying his best to fend them off, and he gets his paws on some zombies. He then throws the zombies and they crash into a wall. But all of his effort is futile as more dead rise from the ground. The bear had previously killed a lot of people. That's why Alan is able to summon so many zombies. The durability of this bear is much higher than the zombies of Alan, but in the end he is getting tired. The bear manages to get closer to Alan after killing all zombies, but he falls down after getting hit by a knife. The zombie bear stops moving, indicating that he is finally dead. And Alan is thinking that the result of this fight was pretty obvious. All of a sudden, he starts feeling weak, and Charlotte helps him to walk. It turns out Alan used too much divine power. That's why he is feeling weak. Alan tells Charlotte that he happened to show her all of his power, but he wants to live quietly as an exiled prince, so he requests her to keep his power a secret. Charlotte says that Alan is her lifesaver, so she will listen to all of his wishes. The villagers arrive at the scene while Alan and Charlotte were talking. They ask Charlotte about why she jumped in there, and they further inform Alan that they brought gear to explore the cave. The villager tries to make his way down, while Alan is thinking that it would have been better if they didn't come. The villager asks Alan about who massacred the zombies along with the bear. They further inform Alan that this bear is known as the King of Gluttony and it harmed countless people before. Alan tells them that he thinks there's a necromancer in this cave. He further informs them that the necromancer killed this bear that was already here to take this base, and they were already dead when Alan arrived here. The villagers believe the words of Alan without any question, and he is thinking that these people are so simple-minded. Plus, Morian is probably dead by now. The Necromancer tried to bait them here with her so he could kill more people with the bear. The villager asks Alan about what they should do next, and Alan says that they should head further into the cave. Someone asks him if he is sure about that, and Alan replies with a yes. He wants to see how great of a necromancer this person is. Without wasting any time, they move further into the cave and they arrive near a small pond. One of the villagers spots something, and he informs Alan that he can see Morian. Without thinking much, the villagers rush to rescue Morian. Alan is thinking that something is fishy about this situation, since Morian has long served her purpose of baiting people inside the cave, and it should have been just easier to kill her and turn her into an undead. Alan quickly moves closer to Morian. She seems to be quite happy since everyone came here to rescue her. Without wasting any time, Alan smacks her face with the shovel. The villagers and Charlotte are in shock after watching this domestic violence. Morian falls down to the ground and Alan says that it's his bad. He should have hit her with the sharper side of the shovel. The villagers run to the rescue of Morian, and one of them asks Alan about what is wrong with him. It turns out that Alan checked the status window of Morian. Her real name is Morgana, and she is 63 years old. Her skills includes honey trap, necromancy, curse, and assassination. Plus, she is extremely nervous and agitated right now. In reality, Morian was not the bait, because she was the necromancer all along. Morgana gets up and she says that there must be a misunderstanding, but Alan shuts her up by saying that he will no longer get tricked by her. Alan informs the villagers that Morian is a necromancer. Even her age and name are fake. Morgana says that the real necromancer dragged her here, and he tortured her. Alan pulls out a bottle filled with holy water and he tells her to drink it. The holy water is the best medicine for humans, but if a necromancer drinks it, then his internal organs will melt down. Morgana tells the prince that he don't have to give her such a precious thing, and Alan gets closer to her and he tells her that it is precious. That's why a precious person like you needs to drink it. Morgana is not sure how Alan knew about her real identity, since her disguise was perfect so far. No one suspected anything while she acted as Morian in the village for a whole year, but she has no idea how this damn prince figured it out. She is not sure which kind of power he possesses and how he got rid of the zombie bear in the first place. Alan asks her for the last time if she is going to drink it or not. Alan yells at her saying that a prince is giving this precious gift to you and should you not be accepting it with both hands. Morgana removes her fake face and she tells Alan that she was going to get rid of him during the wave of death. She throws a stone which breaks the holy water bottle. After that, she summons a lot of skeletons. Morgana informs Alan that she was trying to keep him alive for longer, but he hastened his death by blowing her cover. Morgana is getting cocky, and she tells the prince to say his last prayers. With that being said, the fighting starts and Alan keeps on smashing the skeletons with his shovel. He starts pushing them back into the ground after telling them that they should behave and rest in the ground while he is being nice. Or Morgana can buff her skeletons. Charlotte approaches her from behind. She manages to pin down Morgana without much effort. At the same time, Alan managed to quell the skeletons into submission. Morgana is thinking that maybe the shovel is the main source of strength of Alan, and Alan confirms her suspicion by saying that shovel industry is quite advanced these days. She keeps on nitpicking about the shovel being a holy relic, and Alan asks her if she is still going to be cocky in her last moments. He tells Morgana to look back and worry about her own situation. After a brief session of getting punched in the face, Morgana yields to Alan and she tells everyone that she is Morgana and she is a 63 years old necromancer. This statement of Morgana breaks the hearts of all young men from the village. Morgana begs Alan to not kill her, and in return she will tell him about the one who ordered her to kill him. She was specially asked to seduce Alan and fake his death as a suicide. Alan now knows that the real Alan didn't commit suicide, but he was forced to do it. Alan is thinking that the real Alan was not so pathetic to take his own life. Morgana uses telepathy to only inform Alan that the Dark Order told her to kill the 7th grandson of the Holy Emperor. Plus, she saw through the bear that Alan is a necromancer as well, and if the Order finds out about this, then they won't leave him alone for much longer. Alan says that if you saw me, then there is no reason to not kill you. Organa begs Alan by saying that her tongue just slipped and she will keep it a secret, and she will tell them everything about the Dark Order. Alan smacks her face, saying that if she is going to tell him everything this easily, then her info is not even going to be worth shit. Alan gets back, and he lets the villagers decide her fate. There are many people present there who have lost their families to Morgana, and they will take revenge as they see fit. Organa begs them for forgiveness, but they are not in the forgiving mood today. Alan asks the villager about how they are going to handle her, and the villager says that she should receive the same punishment as the crime she committed. They will torture her to death and then leave her dead body in the forest. The animals will eat her corpse, and what's left of her will become a zombie. And it is a fitting end for a necromancer who insulted the dead. Alan agrees with their decision, and he is thinking that these Middle Ages people are quite brutal. At least Alan now knows that the Dark Order is doing some shady stuff behind the scenes. Plus Alan got his hands on a few books related to necromancy. He could not figure out everything at that time, and he managed to store them in his inventory without anyone noticing it. He is thinking that as a necromancer, it will be great if he can talk to spirits of the dead, but maybe he can't get that type of skill in here. The next day, while reading the book, Alan remembers that Morgana said something about the wave of the death. And he needs to read about this wave of death once again, and he needs to get to the bottom of the assassination attempt on his life. It can be possible that one of his siblings was behind it. Maybe they were trying to get rid of him because of the battle of succession. He is sure that there must be a power struggle going on and he can really get murdered, and he is considering on hiring mercenaries. He is thinking that for now, he has to raise his skill proficiency quickly, while at the same time Charlotte is present in the cathedral as well. Somehow she heard what Alan said, and now she is worried that someone can murder His Highness. Everyone in the village keeps on saying that the 7th Prince has changed. He is not that good in physical fights, but he always takes the initiative in fighting. He saved so many people in the recent incidents, and he even held funerals for those who passed away. And one of the villagers informed her before that when she was unconscious, the 7th Prince also took care of her parents' corpses. She is deeply moved by the good deeds of the 7th Prince, and she wants to help him out. Ellen is now her guardian and her savior. At start, she just wanted to thank him, but a simple thanks is not going to be enough. There is danger lurking around the prince, and he needs a shield to protect himself. Charlotte gets a hold of an Imperial Swordsmanship guidebook. She is determined to become stronger in order to protect the prince. At the same time, the so-called Great Prince is scribbling on the windows of the cathedral like a kid. After a few days, Alan is reading a book which states that the undead evolve over time. When the bodies of the zombies decay, they become skeletons. But if they manage to maintain their intact bodies, then they will evolve into their more powerful versions called ghouls. A ghoul can evolve into a Dullahan, and a Dullahan evolves into a vampire. The more they evolve, the more intelligent and powerful they become. If the zombies stay in the dark, then the mana contained in the darkness makes them evolve more quickly. That's why the undead desire stronger mana. And serial to destination of all zombies is called Land of the Dead Spirits. The undead head to the land that is darker and colder in order to prevent their flesh from being decayed by warm weather. When winter arrives, the instincts of the undead to find the land of the dead are at their peak, and this phenomena is known as the Wave of Death. 25 December is the coldest day during the period of the Wave of Death, and it's the same day when Aemon, who was the king of the Land of Dead, died. During this day, the undead seek out the Land of the Dead Spirits to reclaim their lives. Right now, there is only 1 month left until the Wave of Death starts. The Necromancer Morgana was waiting for this exact Wave of Death to get rid of Alan. Once Alan has finished reading the book, Charlotte asks him to give her the book so she can put it back to its place. Charlotte collects the book from Alan as if she is his maid. Alan didn't even ask her to, but she still comes to the church every day. In addition to organizing books, she even does cleaning, organizing cemeteries, and preparing meals without any pay. He is thinking that maybe she will leave once she is satisfied. From what he heard, it looks like a villager named Grill accepted her as his adopted daughter, so now she has a home to return to. Grill looks like a sloppy punk, but he has a good heart. All of a sudden, 3 holy knights step into the cathedral. One of them has unique green eyes and it looks like they are looking for Alan. Alan checks his status window, and it turns out his name is Harmon Dian, and he is 33 years old. He is the vice commander of the Knights of the Holy Cross, and it seems like he has Holy Family swordsmanship and Haim's protection activated on him. Harmon asks Alan that he heard that Alan caught the witch Morgana. Blon is thinking that this knight got to the point without even greeting him, and he is treating Alan like a proper exiled prince. Plus, he got this news so fast, which is quite weird. Alan is thinking that maybe these bastards were already keeping an eye on him. Alan tells Harmon that he is correct, and he caught the Necromancer with the help of the villagers, and if Harmon has any problem with that. Harmon tells him that they are here to only confirm the facts, and he compliments him for fighting hard along with the villagers. They also heard that he killed the king of predators with just farming tools. They also confirmed that a person by the name of Grill killed 30 zombies, and he cornered the Necromancer with holy water. Alan asks them about who told them these things, and they say that the farmer Grill told these things himself. Alan is thinking that it has not been 5 minutes since he complimented him for being one of the good guys. At first, Harmon thought that it was an exaggeration, but he confirmed everything to be true after seeing the traces of a fierce battle. Alan is thinking that a holy knight should not be so gullible like this. Harmon asks Alan if he knows that Morgana belonged to the Dark Order, and Alan says that he heard it from her. Harmon says that the Dark Order is a vicious organization. So far, Morgana was able to devastate 5 villages all by herself. Alan says that he was fooling around without knowing it. Harmon asks Alan again if he really completely eliminated the witch, and Alan says that the villagers tortured her to death and then they threw her body away. Harmon asks Alan if he was one of the people who tortured her to death, and Alan says that he don't have strength for this kind of stuff. Alan is thinking that he should stick with the story made up by Grill and not reveal his power. Alan tells them that he was just present there, but he got so scared that he almost wet his pants. The knights become disgusted by the way Alan is acting, and they don't even want to ask him about what happened next. Harmon asks Alan about the books of the Necromancer, and Alan acts like he has no idea about them. The Holy Knights were supposed to retrieve books on dark magic, but for some reason the bookshelf of Morgana was empty. Alan is the real culprit, but he acts dumbfolded in front of the knights. One shamelessly tells Harmon to ask the villagers, and they may have burned the books because they looked ominous. Harmon pulls out a huge pouch from his backpack. He informs Alan that the bounty on the head of Morgana was 80 gold coins, and Alan becomes shocked after hearing it. Alan receives the pouch filled with gold coins. Harmon tells him to distribute some gold to the villagers who helped him, and Alan shamelessly tells him to not worry about it. Alan cannot contain his greed, and even Harmon is a bit taken aback by this act of greed by a prince. As Alan is checking the bag of gold coins, Harmon tells him that there is another reason why he came here. Harmon tells Alan to pack his luggage, and Alan becomes shocked after hearing it. And Alan says that he's already living in exile, and if they're going to exile him once again, but Harmon informs him that it's almost time for the wave of death, and they will escort Alan out of here. Alan is thinking that maybe they still care about him since he is a prince. Alan is a bit happy with this, and he asks Harmon if he is being sent to the Imperial Palace or the Warm South. Harmon tells him that his guess is incorrect, and he will be coming with them to the Lonia Estate. Alan says that Lonia Estate is half a day from here, and they will still be in the land of the dead, and if there is any point in evacuating to that place, and Harmon tells him that yes, there is a point. The Lonia Estate is a fortress built to stop the wave of the death. In order to fight the zombies in the wave of the death, the Holy Knights have gathered soldiers and prisoners, and there are going to be many victims this time. So Harmon asks Alan to hold funerals at the Lonia Estate. Both Alan and Charlotte are off-riad and in shock after hearing it. The next day, Alan arrives at the Lonia Estate, where he gets welcomed by 43 years old Jenard Lapang. Jenard is the feudal lord of Lonia, and his traits include comforting, communication, and merciful. Jenard is quite happy to receive Prince Alan, and he inquires about his well-being. Alan is not in the mood, so he tells Jenard that he's not feeling well. Jenard asks Alan if his journey was being rough, and Alan says that he is correct, and the carriage was not comfortable to ride. Jenard asks Grill about who he is. Grill says that he is someone great, while Charlotte informs Gennard that Grill is just a servant. The mood of Alan becomes a bit better after getting a warm welcome, despite being an exiled prince. Alan tells Gennard to stop chatting and guide him to his room. Aliyah Estate is quite infamous throughout the kingdom. Some people call it the land of the dead spirits, and it's nicknamed Sacrificial Fortress. This place is called with that nickname because the victims who would relieve the anger of the dead gather here. The castle wall that surrounds this land is only made for the purpose of blocking the wave of death, and its residents should endure against the zombies for an entire month each year. Every year, a lot of prisoners and soldiers are drafted here to fight on the front lines. Harmond informs Alan that he just needs to treat men and help them with the funerals, and Alan says that he can manage this much. Harmond further informs Alan that there are 2,000 to 3,000 casualties every year, and Alan becomes stunned after hearing it, and he asks Harmond if there is anyone else who will help him. Harmond says there are about 80 priests who can perform the purification ritual. Alan do not need to worry much, as the soldiers are going to help him with the funerals, and he adds to it by saying that sometimes people here die due to exhaustion, but it would be alright. Alan directly heads to the room of the feudal lord Gennard. He then shouts at Gennard to bring him some drinks. Alan cannot handle this situation without a drink, and he would rather die from drinking too much instead of working too hard. Alan tells Charlotte to go with Grill and have some fun as well. He further tells them to come back before the wave of death starts, because they have to protect him. Alan moves into his room with the drinks as he needs to take some rest. Charlotte wants the prince to trust her abilities, while Harmond is thinking that the prince is not even a single bit mature. Alan becomes a bit calm after entering the room, and all this time he was just putting on an act. The reason he wanted wine was not to drink it. Alan uses his skill on the wine bottle. The wine bottle starts changing color, and in a few seconds it converts into holy water. He needs to have some holy water in order to get through this ordeal. He is thinking that he needs to fill all bottles with holy water and consider them as his energy drinks. While Alan is converting the wine bottles into holy water, he sees a gun on the wall. Alan carefully puts the holy water bottles on the table. He then goes to check the gun. He read in a book that there are guns in this world, but he didn't know they were this common. It is quite weird since no one is using guns in this world. A reason why people prefer to use melee weapons over guns in this world full of monsters is because in this world, the guns are just for display. To be exact, the guns use mana instead of gunpowder. Anyone can use it by pouring mana or holy power in it, but it consumes an absurd amount of mana. A trained wizard can only shoot 5 times, and it takes 5 minutes to manifest a bullet with mana. So it's no surprise it became an antique item. It is a bummer since it looks quite cool when the actors kill zombies in movies with a headshot. Alan pours some mana into the cartridge. Alan aims at the wall considering it a zombie. Once Alan shoots the bullet, a lot of holy power release from a single shot. A notification appears telling him that he successfully manifested a bullet with holy power. Alan becomes quite happy after witnessing the firepower of the gun. The holy power was so strong that it even penetrated the wall of his room, but he knows that he made too much big a ruckus. Harmond hurried to the room of the 7th prince after hearing that loud bang. The next day, some guards are whispering that the vice commander is not in a good mood, and maybe he is sensitive because of the upcoming wave of death. Harmond was hearing everything they just said, and he tells them to listen well. Harmond is quite pissed, and he asks them, "Do I really have to tell you to keep your eyes on the prisoners instead of chit-chatting?" After hearing it, the guards run back to their posts without any delay. Harmond is thinking that the guards are not completely wrong. He is wondering if he really did heard that loud sound or if his ears were ringing. When he went to inquire about it, the 7th prince told him to go away and give him some privacy since he is a sensitive teenager. Harmond is sure that the 7th prince bastard broke something. He remembers that the village chief told him that the prince changed a lot after his failed suicide attempt. He has done his duties at the cemetery, and he even stepped up in fighting against a group of zombies, and they consider him their savior. Harmond is thinking that the villagers at that time just uttered complete nonsense, and the prince must have blackmailed them. In his imagination, he is thinking about how the evil prince must have tortured them to say that stuff. He is not sure how an asshole like him subdue a necromancer. on the level of Morgana, and maybe the man named Grill is really strong, and he did all the heavy lifting while the prince reaped the rewards. Harmond is thinking of writing a recommendation letter so that Grill can take the exam to become a holy knight. All of a sudden, Harmond hears some loud voices in the distance, and he's wondering if the prisoners are fighting again. Without wasting any time, he runs toward the location, and he finds out that someone is pointing a shovel toward the face of another person. Harmond becomes a bit shocked after witnessing something. It turns out that Prince Alan is pointing the shovel toward another civilian, and he is asking the civilian if he knows who he is. Plus, the prince seems to be in a serious mood. In the past, after the day arriving at the Lonia estate, people began to die from the epidemic and overwork. Alan was made to work hard, and they even gave him a bird's beak mask, which has a purification spell applied on it to prevent infection. Working, Alan started to wonder about when those zombies are going to show up. All of a sudden, someone rudely called him from behind. The person who called him is his Hedron, who is the eldest son of Count Hedron, and he tells Alan to come to them and have some rest. He is thinking that maybe Alan is one of the students sent by the academy, but Alan has no idea about this academy. Ayais asks him if he didn't come here to serve as part of his disciplinary action. They start talking down on Alan, saying that he must be a country bumpkin or a poor nobody. That's why he didn't got any exemption. One of the lackeys warns Alan to listen to Sir Heiss because he is the eldest son of Count Hedron, or Alan will be in big trouble. T.S. further says that he would not have came here by himself if he was not looking for a maid. He saw Charlotte in the distance, and he tells his lackeys that someone like her would be good as his maid. Tita then asks Alan if she is his maid. He further says that he got his hands on someone as pretty as her back in the academy. But that girl ran away in fear, and she eventually forced Heiss to raise his hands, so he killed her. At the same time, Alan is thinking that this guy is disgusting. Alan starts leaving because it is better to dig holes than hang around bastards like him. Heiss calls out Charlotte as a maid, which alerts Alan. Charlotte comes over and she asks if he was calling her. Yes grabs the hand of Charlotte, which startles her, and he tells her to come play with him instead of his busy master. Charlotte tells him that she is quite busy, but his skis keeps on being a nuisance and he is not letting her go. Charlotte is not messing around, and she puts some pressure on the hand of Heiss. He is in pain and Alan is thinking that she may break his arm at this rate, and Heiss pulls back his hand. And he says that this monstrous girl has so much strength and maybe she has been living in a remote area doing labor work. Alan tells Heiss to shut his mouth. But instead of shutting up like a good son of a count, he keeps on yapping his mouth, and he finally crosses the line by abusing the parents of Charlotte. Alan raises his shovel while Heiss is yapping his mouth like an idiot. Alan barely misses the front side of Heiss by a small margin. Heiss is in shock and he asks Alan about what he just did, and Alan says that he made a mistake while trying to dig a grave. After that, Alan punches the face of Heiss by saying that this time his hand slipped by accident. Three on the punch was quite powerful and Heiss fell to the ground. Heiss keeps on warning Alan by telling him about his background. Alan points his shovel at the neck of Heiss and he asks him if he knows about his background. But before things can go too far, someone stops Alan. This person turns out to be Harmond, and he asks Alan if he's going to cause another accident. He shouts at Harmond to punish Alan, but Charlotte says that he is lying. Harmond tells Alan that he cannot ignore it this time, and Iran has enough of this crap and he finally snaps. Alan uses silent spell on everyone present there. Harmond is trying his best to speak, but words are not coming out of his mouth, and he is wondering if Alan used an incantation using holy power. Alan calls out Harmond using telepathy. He then orders Harmond to tell this son of a waste about his identity. Harmond then informs Heiss that Alan is the grandson of the Emperor and he is the 7th prince. Alan asks Heiss as if he realized now who's maid, who was rude to, and which one of them failed to show respect. Heiss is about to say something, but Alan tells Heiss that there is no need to be scared. If Heiss apologizes sincerely, then there won't be any big problems. But something goes wrong and Alan gets imprisoned. Charlotte informs Alan that according to Harmond, the injury inflicted on the son of a nobleman cannot be forgiven. It turns out Heiss fainted at that time and he was carried away right after that. And Charlotte apologizes to Alan because he is getting a week of probation because of her. Alan is wondering that in movies the grandsons of emperors have more power than nobles. and he tells Charlotte to not worry about him and he will kill time by reading a book. Arendt, he further says that it is better this way since there is a blizzard outside. A guard comes running toward Harmond. He informs Harmond that he ordered the prisoners to clear the snow. However, it's snowing so much that it is not being cleared fast enough. Harmond is not listening to him, and he is thinking about how the 7th prince used an incantation, even though he is a good-for-nothing, but maybe the blood of the Holy Emperor is still running thick in his veins. When he snaps back to reality after the guard shouts at him, Harmond tells the guard that they need to keep removing snow for the castle wall to remain at an optimal height. The Holy Emperor killed the dead spirit king on the 25th December. But this time, there are so few zombies, and only one more day is left. Rangs the guard asks Harmond if they should report this to the Holy Emperor, and Harmond tells him to gather the prisoners and report back to the royal palace. The bell rings in order to call back the prisoners inside the gate. Prisoners start heading back to the Lonia estate after hearing the bell, but there seems to be a fresh prisoner casualty. Some undead seem to be gulping up the unlucky prisoners. One of the guards spots the zombies and he shouts at others to close the gate. After some time, only a few people manage to get inside and the priests are ordered to quickly treat them. The survivor informs them that they were attacked from behind by zombies, and because of the blizzard, they could not spot them beforehand. All people who were in the back were eaten by those zombies. At the same time, Harmond orders all soldiers to quickly regroup and climb up the walls as they need to prepare for a defense battle. Harmond now knows why it was so quiet before. There is no way the zombies wouldn't come out as the day when the dead spirit king was killed approaches. Soon, there will be more than 3,000 undead gathered here. The priests are healing the survivors, while Harmond is wondering about how did this happen. This is the first time the zombies attack them from behind like this. All this time, they were hiding under the snow while suppressing their instincts. Most of the undead have no thinking brain, and they know no fear, and they only rely on their instincts. Every year, the undead attacked in great numbers during the Wave of the Dead, but the humans were able to handle them because the undead were not properly equipped and they didn't know any strategies or tactics. But this time, it's totally different. The zombies start beating the drum, indicating the start of the war. All undead start gathering outside in formations, and this time they seem like a perfectly coordinated army. This has never happened before, and Harmond along with other soldiers are confused and worried. All of a sudden, an undead calls out to all humans, referring to them as living ones. He tells the humans to be afraid and long for their deaths. Some zombies come out, and it looks like they are carrying their leader. The undead tells the humans that he is the judge of this world. He is the Messiah who will save this world through death. Finally, the undead leader shows himself. He says that he is the successor to Yudai, who is the god of death. His status window shows that he is the vampire count and his real name is unknown. His skills and traits include bite, mana discharge, necromancy, and arrogance. An empire count gives out a evil laughter, and he really looks like a overcooked evil potato. At the same time, Alan is still in jail, and he is wondering why it is so noisy outside. This is heating time, but no one came with his meal. Alan goes to the window to check out the situation, but at the same time, someone calls to him from behind. Alan tells him to not worry as he was not trying to break out of jail. But Count Gennard tells him that he is here to take him. Alan tells him that he is still on probation, but Count Gennard informs him that it's not the problem right now, and a legion of undead is outside the estate. Alan asks him if there are not enough workers, and Count Gennard tells him that it's not the case, and there is really a legion outside. He further informs Alan that a vampire has brought a legion of the undead. Alan tells him that maybe he saw something wrong, and why would a high-level monster be here? Gennard informs Alan that the vampire was using human language, plus he can control other monsters, which means he is definitely a vampire. Count Gennard has no idea about the current situation outside, but Sir Harmond is confronting the undead for now. This place can fall at any moment. That's why they need to evacuate Alan to a safe place. Gennard tells Alan to follow him. But all of a sudden, the whole building starts shaking and Gennard informs Alan that it means the Legion is closing on them and they need to quickly evacuate through the back gate. All of a sudden, a cluster of zombies rushes toward the cell window. Alan quickly moves out of the cell, while the undead break the prison wall and get inside the cell. Both Alan and Count Gennard are shocked, as this is the first time they are seeing a zombie lump. Gennard says that maybe the undead lumped up a bunch of zombies and threw them toward them. Alan is thinking that if they are attacked like this, then the outside must be swarming with those things. Alan quickly closes the cell door, and he tells Count Gennard to come to his senses and command the soldiers. If the Lonia estate residents are hunted like this, then there will be more undead. Count Gennard runs away to find a place for the Lonia estate residents to take shelter while Alan is thinking about what he should do next. He have been able to manage everything so far because the trials he has been through were at the level he could handle. But he is completely outnumbered this time. And Alan is now left with no other choice but to run away from here. Alan uses his holy water skill on all of the undead present inside the prison cell. All zombies become immobilized within a few seconds and Alan moves into the cell. Alan is going to use this chance to get outside through the hole made by zombies. Alan gets out of the hole, but he is shocked to see something. It turns out that the undead are going on a rampage, and they are killing off every priest, civilian and soldier they come across, and the residents of the Lonia estate are crying for help. One of the residents keeps on requesting help while the zombies bite him to death. There are some soldiers who are holding back the zombies with their shield wall, but they get startled after finding out that some zombies are approaching them from behind. The zombies brutally maul them to death, and Alan watched all of this unfold with his eyes, and their pleas for help can still be heard. Alan is not sure about how long can he last with the holy water he's been making so far. Alan is thinking of going all out, and he raises his shovel. He strikes the ground with his shovel while thinking that maybe the goddess is annoyed because she can't control him. Alan uses all of his holy power to initiate a wide area blessing, and he gets covered with holy water. He then breaks the holy water, covering him into small droplets. This skill is called Debilitating Epidemic, and it turns the droplets into holy rain. The evil energy wave is too intense, and it pierces through many soldiers and undead alike. A single soldier survives in his whole regiment. His will to live completely shatters, and Dullahan moves toward him. The soldier has given up on his life as he thinks that no one can defeat this monster. Alan quickly moves, and he uses the shoulder of the soldier to point the gun at Dullahan. Alan says sorry to the soldiers as he will be borrowing his shoulder for now. It's his second time using this gun, so he is not much familiar with it, but he still shoots the Dullahan. A big bang happens after the holy bullet touches the Dullahan. At the same time, the vampire lord is thinking that he can feel the energy of the living. The living are like the chunks of fresh meat that he have not been able to taste in 50 years. His legion will grow stronger after he turns these humans into undead. At first, he was just an egoless zombie which was only driven by instinct to become a ghoul. After that, he became a Dullahan, and from Dullahan to a zombie lord. At last, he finally managed to become a vampire. He spent all of those 50 years to just become capable of thinking and making judgments. And vampires are ranked according to the mana they possess, although the vampire count was not acknowledged by the other vampires as it has not been long since he became a vampire. But he is still confident as someone who has received the power of a vampire count. And the reason for that power is this skull. It's the skull of the dead spirit king Amon. Thanks to this skull, he was able to gather the required mana that would have taken him at least 100 years in just a few decades. Right now, his legion consists of 20,000 undead. He will soon surpass the level of a count and walk the path of a king. Vampire Lord is no longer afraid of normal holy power. Right now, he's just waiting for these puny holy knights to surrender and become a part of his legion. Some soldiers shoot ballista at the undead below, and Holy Knight Harmond tells them to not stop and keep shooting. They need to kill as many undead as possible before the sun sets, and once the sun is gone, the undead will become stronger. If this wall falls, then the whole Lonia estate will fall, and he is thinking that the zombies have already infiltrated their territory several times. He can't go to help the residents of the Lonia estate because there is no one capable enough to stop the push of the undead. Reincarnated 4, who is wondering about what will happen if the whole Lonia estate gets wiped out, and in dire times like these, only the Holy Emperor can help them. All of a sudden, he hears a loud sound from behind. It turns out to be Charlotte carrying ammunition for ballista and swords. She informs Harmond that the Lonia estate is safe since the 7th prince is there. In the meantime, she will try her best to help them hold off undead the legion. Harmond lets her stay on the wall, and Charlotte drops the weapons which seem quite heavy. All this time, Harmond thought that Charlotte was just a maid, but she seems more powerful than most knights. Even veteran soldiers cannot carry that many weapons. Armand praises Charlotte for her resolve. He is thinking that even a child like her is working so hard, and he should endure this trail as well. If push comes to shove, then Armand will try to break through the Legion and cut off the vampire's head by himself. Some huge undead are loading catapults with zombies. The undead army shoots the zombies toward the Lonia estate with the help of the catapult. Harmon tells Charlotte to stay behind him as this thing is about to get dangerous. Harmon chants to Heim, the god of war, to grant him strength. But Charlotte jumps ahead before he can use his skill. And Charlotte uses a slash skill on the flying zombie horde. Her strike was too ferocious and all zombies get slashed into 2 pieces. The decapitated parts of the zombies fall all over the estate. Charlotte lands outside the Lonia estate. Meanwhile, Harmond is wondering about how did she cut up those zombies so easily. What's more, zombies cannot die with normal weapons, but the zombies who got cut by the sword of Charlotte are not getting back up. There are only 2 methods for dealing with the undead. First one requires the heads of the undead to be pierced, and second one requires to use a weapon imbued with holy power. But her sword looks like a normal one without any incantations. Charlotte keeps on rampaging through the waves of undead approaching her. She is cutting them like butter, and it looks like a complete, one-sided massacre from afar. Armand, who is watching her from the castle walls, is thinking that the techniques of Charlotte are crude and sloppy. She is using her muscle strength to make up for her unfamiliarity with swordsmanship. However, her destructive power and the rough, cutting-edge swordsmanship is definitely the Holy Empire's imperial swordsmanship, passed down to the Holy Cross Squad. Armand shouts out to Charlotte. Armand asks her about where did she learn that swordsmanship and if she is a member of the Holy Emperor family. Charlotte informs her that he is wrong, and she is just the servant of the 7th Prince, and she learned this swordsmanship from a book. The zombies are almost upon Charlotte, so she gets back to business. And it turns out Armand couldn't hear a single word she said because of the loud battle cries. Meanwhile, inside the Count Manor, a soldier arrives with a crate filled with holy water, and he tells the priests to use these to cure the wounded after they run out of holy power. Count Gennard inquires about where did he got these bottles from, and the soldier informs him that the 7th Prince gave it to him. Count Gennard is happy to hear that the 7th Prince is safe, and he asks about the whereabouts of the prince. The soldier informs Gennard that he took the remaining soldiers with him to help secure the walls. Gennard had no idea about it, and the soldier says that he thought Prince Alan had already taken permission from Count Gennard to lead the troops. Count Gennard says that everyone present here is praising the personality and the holy power of the 7th Prince, and it's not like he don't trust him. But after this battle, will there be any troops left inside the estate to protect them in case the wall falls? Somewhere inside the Lonia estate, there is a blood trial with a lot of weapons scattered around, but there are no dead bodies. It turns out those soldiers already turned into zombies, and they're heading somewhere in a hurry. Their faces are covered with masks, as if they are trying to hide their undead status. After some time, the zombie soldiers arrive at the wall, but the soldiers stationed there cannot recognize their leader for some reason. It turns out to be Alan, and he is wearing the plague mask, and he informs the soldier that they're the reinforcements. Quinn, soldier, says that it is no less than a miracle that someone survived inside the walls, but he informs Alan that the situation in front of the castle gate is more pressing. Alan tells him to not worry as they have already dispatched some forces there. In the past, Alan was left with no holy power to activate holy skills properly, and he had already given away the holy water bottles. So he was left with no other choice but to use Spectre Soldier Necromancy, skill on the recently deceased soldiers. It will be over once they get caught, so he ordered them to cover their faces. In the present, the soldier tells Alan that he should have stayed in the rear if he wanted to heal them, but Alan says that he came here because he had to do some things on the way. He pulls up his gun, and he informs the soldier that he wants to try using this. The soldier informs him that this kind of ornament is useless in this situation, and Alan ignores him by saying that this place has the best view. Alan can clearly see the vampire count from this point, and he points his gun toward him. Alan first aims at the head of the vampire lord, then for some unknown reason he changes his aim toward the precious balls of the vampire count. Alan pulls the trigger while thinking that this will be the perfect chance to let the vampire count have a taste of the blessings of the goddess Gaia. Meanwhile, on the other side, Harmon catches up to another holy knight outside the estate. He informs others that he came here after he heard that the evacuation of the territory was finished. Harmon says that he can now help them out, but the Holy Knight informs him that the situation on their side was not that much worse. A nation, he don't know why, but regular soldiers were using weapons filled with holy power. There were some who even used skills comparable to Holy Knights. And in the end, those reinforcements that came at the end completely turned the tide of the war inside the city. Harmon has no idea about who sent those reinforcements, as he was busy on the walls. And the Holy Knight informs him that they will figure that out later, and right now, they need to do something about the vampire count. Amand asks him if they tried long-distance attacks. Holy Knight informs him that they tried both ballista and arrows. A bolt from the ballista is fired toward the Vampire Lord. There is a shield of mana around the Vampire Lord, which breaks any type of physical long-distance projectile. Even imbuing the projectiles with holy power seems ineffective. Warman says that maybe their projectiles had less holy power than the mana protecting the vampire count. Right now, the soldiers are blocking the undead using shield walls, but soon they will have to break through and directly attack the Vampire Lord. While Harmon is doing some brainstorming to cook up a strategy, some soldiers notice something on the walls. There seems to be something extraordinary happening on the castle wall, and the soldiers are wondering if it's the doing of a priest. Alan is emitting a holy light, and he is praying to the goddess of love and mercy, who requests the goddess to bestow her holy protection upon him so he can use her dead vanquishing power to pierce this vampire count. Alan is wearing a mask, which makes it harder for Harmon to recognize him. An image of the goddess has been manifested behind him by the particles of light, and it definitely looks like a blessing bestowed directly by the goddess Gaia. And even for high-ranking priests, this is something that only happens once in a lifetime. Plus, Harmon's never heard of such a priest coming to the Lonia estate. Charlotte informs Harmon that priest is the 7th prince. She further says that she can recognize him anywhere through his light. Harmon looks at Charlotte, and she seems like a teenage fangirl. Harmon is not sure about what kind of contradiction is this, since Alan is the one who blasphemed against the goddess in the past, and now he is receiving her blessing. He is wondering if that person is really the 7th prince. Alan aims at the balls of the vampire count, and he says that it's the perfect chance to let him have a taste of the blessings of Gaia. Alan pulls the trigger and a fast wave of holy light pierces through the snow and the undead legion. The holy bullet seems almost unstoppable as it cuts through countless undead soldiers, and at last it clashes with the mana shield of the Vampire Lord. The holy bullet easily shatters the mana shield and it hits the vampire count. The vampire count can clearly see the bullet, which is about to pierce his balls. Though the method of collecting holy power is clearly explained in the Book of the Holy Emperor in the monastery. While reading that book, Alan noticed something. While mages use spells and mana, priests use prayers and holy power, while the necromancers use lifespan and magic power to utilize their power. So normally Alan would have to give up his lifespan and magic power in exchange for using this, but he wondered if there is any need to do that. He naturally had a lot of holy power for being the grandson of the Holy Emperor. Alan wanted to give a try to praying since he will not have to sacrifice his lifespan in order to do that. In the present, the bullet of Alan pierced the balls of the vampire count and he is screaming in agony. He orders his legion to run away from the battlefield right away. Alan is thinking that this praying power is too overpowered. He managed to pierce that mana shield of the vampire count with just one bullet. Thanks to the soldiers, shout that the undead legion is retreating and they should start moving the wounded soldiers inside the estate. Alan is thinking that it's a shame that the Vampire Lord didn't die from that bullet, but it still gave them time to reorganize. All of a sudden, Alan notices that all soldiers present outside the castle gates are looking toward him. Alan gets back from the walls. He informs the soldier that they will be going now to treat the wounded. The soldiers who are present outside the castle have no idea about his identity, and they are wondering if he is really a high-ranking priest. Even Harmon is not sure if he's really the prince. In the past, who was a good-for-nothing who deserved to be exiled? But how can an exiled prince accomplish all of this in a single day? In the past, he always thought about how can a skilled child like Charlotte can look up to the prince with such admiration. But now it all makes sense. Even though everyone back in the village said that the 7th prince had changed, but he didn't believe them. He is thinking whether Alan changed after losing his memories, or if he was putting on an act from the start. He is not sure if Alan remembers what happened 5 years ago. It turns out Alan had a different personality before the death of Her Highness Ulyssia. Ulyssia was the mother of the first and the seventh prince. She was a country girl from a commoner background. She belonged to the mixed race of the Holy Nation and the southern nation of Aslan. Both the Holy Nation and Aslan were in a bad relationship for hundreds of years. As a result, many nobles and priests, even the current Holy Emperor, disapproved of her. However, the Holy Emperor's son loved her with all of his heart and they got married. She gave birth to the first prince. However, with the great influence of the Holy Emperor, they appointed 2 young ladies of noble blood as concubines for the Holy Emperor's son. After that, many princes and princesses were born. In the end, Ulyssia gave birth to the 7th prince. And when the 7th prince turned 10, a great tragedy fell on them. Ulyssia was attacked by a vampire during a night walk with her 2 sons. Ulyssia, who was trying to protect the 7th prince, was torn apart, and she died. The first prince barely survived the attack, and he suffered from a curse on his heart, and he fell ill. Before that incident, the prince was known to be kind-hearted, but after the death of Ulyssia, he became crooked. Some people said that he was so shocked that he had gone crazy. In the present, Harmond is thinking that maybe Alan got his original personality back after that failed suicide attempt. But the fact that he lost his memories has nothing to do with his holy powers. He is wondering why the prince kept his power hidden so far. Maybe he did not want it to attract the attention of the Holy Emperor's family. There is also a possibility that he may be planning to take his revenge. He can understand the feelings of Alan to some extent as he was present in the Imperial Palace at that time, and the Holy family members didn't take kindly to Alan or his mother. It was better for both princes to some extent, but the nobles always showered their mother with insults. What if Alan is planning to take revenge on those nobles and the vampire who drove his mother to death? Maybe Alan deliberately let himself be exiled to build up his strength away from the constant surveillance of the Imperial Palace. Since he himself is a holy knight from the Imperial Palace, he can understand why Alan acted unruly in front of him, and that child Charlotte could actually be a heir of a great family. At that time, when the vampire attacked them, Harmond was also prisoned there, and the first prince ordered him to call for support. Up until now, he always regretted that decision and he should have never left their side during that time. For Insurli and Sirio, he cannot forget, and no matter how hard he tries to forget, his shameful past in which he was unable to protect Her Highness. All this time, the 7th prince has been building up his strength for revenge while enduring all kinds of insults and the cruelty as an exiled prince. And if the 7th prince wants to take revenge on Her Highness' behalf, then it's only right for Harmond to support him. However, in order to do that, they must first solve the problem here in Lonia. Harmond snaps out of his thinking bubble after realizing that a soldier is approaching him, and he asks him if he is on patrol. He gets no reply and he is thinking that maybe he could not hear him because of the wind. But he suddenly realizes that it is not possible to patrol this late at night without any torches. Harmond quickly rushes toward the zombie to strike him, but the zombie manages to block his attack with his sword. On closer look, Harmond realizes that this soldier is an undead. Harmond gets back to dodge some arrows coming toward him. Harmond now knows that there are more than one of these undead, but aside from the demonic energy, he can also feel holy power from them. Harmond quickly strikes the sword of the undead soldier, and it falls off. He then prepares to chop the undead zombie into 2 pieces. The zombie is looking like he has given up on his undead life, and he is ready to receive the death sentence by this holy knight in front of him. But before Harmond can land a strike, he hears the voice of Alan who tells him to stop. Harmond stopped his attack, but he is shocked to see that the undead zombie stopped as well. Harmond asks Alan about what is going on in here. Alan orders Harmond to put down his sword. After he puts his sword down, Alan asks him if he has finished reorganizing the troops, since the Undead Legion will soon come back once again. After midnight will be the day when the dead Spirit King Amon died, and he is wondering if the Undead Legion will become even more powerful. Harmond gets straight to the point without answering Alan, and he asks him if he is using necromancy. Alan tells him that he don't know either. In his mind, he is thinking that now that Harmond has caught him, everything is ruined. Harmond says that this is not something that he should be saying so nonchalantly, and he asks him if it was so desperate that he had to learn necromancy. Alan tells him that he summoned those undead, but after losing his memories, he really can't remember why he was able to handle those things, and he just did it because he thought it could help them win this war. In his mind, Alan is thinking that this baboon is not going to believe him if he tells him that he transmigrated to this world. Hammond asks Alan if he made a deal with the devil, but Alan tells him that if he made a deal, then the undead would not have any holy power. Alan further says that maybe he have been always interested in necromancy. Alan asks Harmond if he's going to inform the Inquisitors. Harmond says that of course I should tell them, and Alan is thinking that he just bitten off more than he can chew. Alan is thinking whether they are going to torture him just like in movies, and if he should run away with Charlotte. All of a sudden, Harmond gets down on his knees. He pledges to Alan that he will not report any of this. He further says that he will assist him until the very end.